Well, thank you very much, James, for that very kind introduction. Thank you, Lawrence, for opening up your home and your backyard. Thank you to my colleagues in the House of Commons, my former colleagues, and a special thank you to the MLAs and municipal officials who are here. I want to thank you for joining us with us this evening. You know, often the NDP and the Liberals, they work hand in hand at different levels of government to advance their agenda, and we need to do that as well. There are so many issues that affect people's lives that cross between different levels of jurisdiction. And when Conservatives in legislatures and at city halls can work with federal counterparts to give good, common sense policies to the people they represent, that's how we can really improve the quality of life for all Canadians. So thank you very much for being here. I love coming to Winnipeg. It's a great place to visit. One thing you can count on is that when it's windy like this, then at least you don't have to put up with the mosquitoes. And that's one of the bright sides of, and I can say that coming from Regina, because we have the exact same issue there in our summers. And many of you might not know this, but one of the first times I came to visit Winnipeg, I was in a bit of a difficult circumstance, because I had just been elected as the MP for Regina Capel, the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And Candace made me promise not to get to show the Rider Pride tonight, but with this being the Labor Day weekend, I thought I would tell this story. My brother-in-law, John Ryan, he actually started his football career with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And there we are, yeah. And I had to make that very difficult decision early on in my political career because my mother-in-law handed me a Bombers jersey the first time I went to see one of his games. And I had to make that split-second decision. Do I show myself in a Bombers jersey for the thousands of Saskatchewan fans that are here, or do I miss out on Sunday suppers for the rest of my marriage? I won't tell you what I opted for, because I think the cameras are running. But we have so much in common. Saskatchewan and Manitoba have so much in common. Very similar economies based on that blend between agriculture and some new technology, manufacturing as well. Cities as big, important economic engines, but still that connection with rural communities. And when I think back to the history of the province of Manitoba, the history of the province of Saskatchewan, there are so many similarities. We often come together when we have to fight back against obstacles that Mother Nature might put in our way, or governments in Ottawa imposing on us out here that make life more difficult. But another thing really does bind, I think, the people in Regina, people in Saskatchewan with people in Winnipeg and people in Manitoba. And that is, from time to time, more often than we would have liked, Conservatives have to come and clean up the mess left to us from the NDP and the Liberals. And I know that is what the Premier, Brian Palliser, is doing now. He's had to inherit a giant mess from over 15 years of NDP government. And in Saskatchewan, we know what happens when the NDP are in power. The friends of the NDP get rewarded. Economic growth gets stunted. The very people that they claim to help are hurt the most. And so we wish you all the best provincially. And we need to make sure that we have strong representation in Ottawa from the city of Winnipeg, like Lawrence Toet, to make sure that Conservatives can clean up the mess that the Liberals are leaving us in 2019. Canadians can't afford 4 more years of Justin Trudeau's failures. We learned today that, yet again, another disastrous blow to Canada's energy sector, as they didn't even do the job they set themselves to do to get Trans Mountain approved. A huge setback. And I am angry. I'm angry on behalf of all the workers who are depending on these types of projects. I'm angry on behalf of all of us, the taxpayers of Canada, who are now owners of a 40-year-old asset that the investors were only too happy to give away to Justin Trudeau. He wrote that check on your checkbooks to pay for his failures to get that pipeline built. We're going to have a massive cleanup job when it comes to Canada's deficits. When you think about the promise during the last election campaign, the teeny $10 billion temporary deficits that have turned out to be not temporary at all, and certainly not tiny. When you look at the mess that Conservatives are going to have to clean up when it comes to Canada's relationship with important trading partners around the world. You know, everywhere Justin Trudeau has traveled, our relationship is worse off than when he got there. And we've got important allies in terms of trade and regional security, like India, like Japan, like Australia. We've got worse relationships with China. We've got a situation where for the past 5 weeks or more, Canada wasn't even at the table when it comes to the final decisions around NAFTA. So more and more Canadians are realizing that they didn't get what they voted for in the last election. And what started off a year ago where people would stop me and wish me all the best and say, "Good luck, Andrew, we hope you win." Now they're grabbing me with both arms, they're squeezing into my arm, and they're saying, "Andrew, you've just got to beat these guys. We can't afford another 4 years of Justin Trudeau." And the NDP are no better. I mean, I defeated a longtime NDP member of Parliament. I know that Elmwood Transcona has been represented by the NDP for far too long. We had that great period of respite when Lawrence Toet represented this riding from 2011 to 2015. But you know, one of the things that is so mind-numbing when you argue with the NDP is all the things they claim to stand for, they actually vote against when it comes to the House of Commons. They say they stand up for the workers. Well, they were completely silent when Justin Trudeau attacked the jobs of millions of Canadians with his tax hike on small businesses. We fought back against those, not just because of the 1.4 million small business owners across this country that affected, but for the millions more who had jobs thanks to those small business owners. We get passionate about that because that's who we are. I didn't inherit a trust fund to pay for my university. I can't count on a vast family fortune. I had to go out and earn my tuition, and I got hired thanks to a small business owner who gave me a job. And I learned that in Canada, prosperity is contagious. And when one part of our economy does well, we all benefit along with it. And that you don't need to tear somebody down in order to build somebody else up. That can go hand in hand. The NDP say they're in favor of workers, but yet when there are massive assaults against our manufacturing sector with higher corporate taxes, with higher payroll taxes, when we have a prime minister that says he wants to leave the oil and gas in the ground, the NDP aren't standing up for the metal workers, the pipe fitters, the electricians who have jobs in the energy sector. They're not doing anything for those who work in the aerospace sector when all these costs make Canada less competitive and those investment dollars are chased south of the border. When Conservatives get the floor in the House of Commons, when we get to speak on these issues, we're fighting for those workers. We're fighting for jobs and opportunity in our communities. We know that's what actually lifts people out of poverty and leaves a better future for the next generation of Canadians. We know that when new Canadians come here, they come here to share in the history and the prosperity that past generations have built. And when they come to these communities, they have a right to live in safe communities where repeat criminals are held accountable for their actions and are not left to plague law-abiding, honest families. And time again, when Conservatives have proposed real solutions to get tough on crime, that has a lot to say about rehabilitation and helping those who are looking to get off of drugs or away from a life of crime. But that also recognizes that when someone chooses to steal their 10th car or to commit their 12th break and enter or their 7th assault, that the rights of law-abiding people come first. That's what every Canadian has a right to do. That is what Conservatives will fight for. So that's the positive Conservative message that we're going to be spreading for the next year. I could go on and on about the energy sector, about manufacturing, about more on foreign affairs, but I know that all of you are here tonight to support Lawrence, and you're already convinced that a Conservative government will do much better than the Liberals and the NDP. But I want to leave you with this thought. Candace said something a little while ago, and I've heard other people say this, and we need to remind our friends and neighbors, because that's what it's going to take to get Lawrence elected. We need people who didn't vote for us last time to vote for us in 2019. And the message is, Canadians are far more conservative than they may realize. When you talk to people issue by issue, they share our values. They believe that hard work should pay off. That if you've put in an honest day's work, you should get to benefit from that. That you shouldn't have to pay more in taxes than you get to keep for yourself at the end of the week. They want real solutions to help people turn away from crime, but real accountability for those who continually break the law. Those are all conservative principles that we can all agree on. So I'm asking all of you to get out and help. Help Lawrence, help your candidates in other ridings. I know I'm in Elmwood, Transcona tonight, but I know we have some people running for nominations in other ridings that we have to get back. And one by one, door by door, lawn sign by lawn sign, phone call by phone call, if we all work together and work on the common ground that we all share as conservatives, we can take this positive message about how conservative governments actually lift people out of poverty, create the opportunity for the next generation of Canadians, and improve the quality of life for all of us. We can do all that together, and working together here in Winnipeg, across the country, Atlantic Canada, Toronto, Vancouver, we will make sure that Justin Trudeau is a one-term Prime Minister. So thank you very much. Let's get to work.